Hey guys, we are on day 18 in the book of Genesis. We are reading chapters 19 through 21 today, and there is a lot that happens between chapters 19 and 21, but it culminates in the birth of Isaac, and Isaac's name means laughter, and we read this sort of momentous occasion, this exciting fulfillment. Finally, God's promise to Abraham that he will have a son is fulfilled. And that means that God's going to do it. He's going to bless all nations through Isaac. And so it occurs to me as I'm reading through this, the thing that really, really struck me is just the idea that we can trust in God's promises and do what he says, or we can really frustrate the plans of God if we attempt to make his plans happen according to our own human wisdom and timing. And what I mean by this is simply that if we consider Abraham's life from the call of Abraham to the fulfillment of the promise of a child, then we'll see a whole lot of striving and a whole lot of departing from just obeying God, right? Because Abram is called by God, and the call that he receives in chapter 12, God called him out and he says, go out from your land and your relatives, he says, and your father's house, to the land I will show you. And he promises to bless all nations through Abraham. And what Abraham does then is he goes, but he doesn't just go out from his father's house and all of his relatives. He takes his wife and his relative Lot goes with him. And so then, we see that God promises Abraham a child, and that just isn't happening fast enough. And so we have this birth narrative of Ishmael, and that is messy and uncomfortable in a lot of ways. Then we have another birth narrative, and that is Lot's daughters. We have two birth narratives after Sodom and Gomorrah, and it's super uncomfortable again. There's a lot about it that it just doesn't seem right to us as we're reading it. But the thread here that I think we're meant to notice with these narratives back to back, we have a promised child, and the birth narrative we expect to read after the promise is that of Isaac, is that of the promised child. But instead, we read about Ishmael, and then we read about the grandchildren of Lot, who become the fathers of the Moabite clan and the Ammonite clans. And these three children, their descendants, become a snare to Israel, who will eventually come from the promised child's line. And so we see this frustration of plans occurring over and over again. And when I read the text, I always ask, what if Lot had stayed back? What if Sarah and Abraham had trusted the promise of God and stuck to the vision that they were going to have a child together through Sarah, like the angel says? What if they had just been faithful to the promise of God and obeyed what he had told them to do, to go to the land he would show them? And the great thing about our God is that he is faithful to do what he says, regardless of what we do. God still makes good on his promises, in spite of how much, through their own human wisdom, Lot's daughters tried to extend their line, and Abram and Sarah tried to make a child happen before God was ready for that promise to be fulfilled. And God was still faithful to do what he said that he would do. And so I'm encouraged today that even if we do our best and we mess up, that God is still going to do the things in our world that he has promised to do. But for us, the journey, I believe, would be so much more enjoyable if we could just trust in his promises and in what he has said he would do. And I think that is just so timely for us today, when there is so much fear and concern about the future, that if we can just trust that Jesus said he was coming back, and that means he will one day. And in the meantime, we just need to be about our Father's business on this earth, which is sharing Jesus' witness and life and death and resurrection and the truth of what he's done for us with other people around us and in our world, if we can just be about his business and be faithful for that, he will continue to bring his promises in this earth, and we won't be frustrating those plans. So I hope that's encouraging to you. I hope you guys have a great day. Keep reading the Bible. That's day 18 done.